Hello, Patriots, and welcome back to the Patriot Dad channel. After yesterday's discussion between Vladimir Zelensky and Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, in front of the press, I thought it would be interesting to provide a little historical context in how we got here, because it always seems to be forgotten why Ukraine was attacked in the first place. I'm not saying Putin was correct for doing it, but understand there is significant historical context here that the media is intentionally not telling you about. Now, we'll review a real quick video by Peter Sachs and his discussion with the European Parliament, but you guys think for yourself a little bit and then leave a comment on the video or come on over to the Discord and we'll have a conversation about it.
What was Putin's intention in the war? Not the propaganda that's written about this. Oh, that they failed and he was going to take over Ukraine.
Yeah, guys, that's always the narrative, right? If we don't stop Putin here, he's going to keep rolling through to Poland, right? That's what we're always told.
The idea was to keep NATO, and what is NATO? It's the United States, off of Russia's.
This is a current map, guys. Does it look like NATO has kept off of Russia's doorstep? Did we stick to our agreement from the 90s? Doesn't really look like it, does it?
Border. No more, no less. When the Soviet Union ended in 1991, and an agreement was made that NATO will not move 1 inch eastward.
So let's find out. Did we move eastward after this agreement?
Now, what happened after 1991, the United States decided there would be no end to eastward enlargement.
And what is our interest in that fight? Why are we dictating terms for what's happening in Europe between Western Europe and Russia? Please explain.
Of NATO. And the decision was taken formally in 1994 when President Clinton signed off on NATO enlargement to the east, all the way to Ukraine and into Georgia. So the NATO enlargement, as you know, started in 1999.
All right, guys, 1999, map of NATO and Russia. That little red piece, if you look on Google Maps, is actually part of Russia. Throwing that out there. That's not like a little territory or an agreement between them and another country. No, that's actually part of Russia. I don't know who draw these maps, but guys, notice something? We discussed this about the video I did previously about NATO expansion. You can see the link for that there in the corner. Do you notice anything? The entire idea after World War II is that Russia didn't want any Western European influence anywhere near them. Germany had pushed almost all the way to Moscow, and then they had repelled them back to Germany. That's how you ended up with East and West Berlin. East Berlin was the part that belonged to Russia. And then during the Cold War, you had what was declared the Iron Curtain, or the former Soviet Socialist republics, that also maintained the border between Russia and Europe. So now, with the Cold War gone, there was an agreement, okay, you know what? NATO will not push into the former Soviet Socialist republics. We will allow you to maintain your separation, your land gap between Western Europe and Russia. Perfect. This is where we started, guys. This was NATO in 1999. So let's see what happened to it.
With Hungary, Poland, and the Czech Republic.
Oh, that looks like a little more than an inch. So NATO expanded. Do you guys think it should have? Do you think we should have stuck with our agreement? Do you think we should have just stayed out of it? Like, what business is it? The whole point of NATO was to counter the Soviet Union, which was gone. What's the point of NATO now other than to encroach on and antagonize Russia? Do you know? Because Russia wants access to warm water ports. They could do it through agreements. It's probably the better way to do it instead of invading countries. But these countries keep signing up with NATO, which is their de facto enemy.
And Russia was extremely unhappy about it, but these were countries still far from the border. So the next round of NATO enlargement came in 2004 with the 3 Baltic states, Romania, Bulgaria, Slovenia, and Slovakia.
Oh, right up onto the border, guys. Look at that. Latvia, right on the border. Why? Why are all of these countries joining NATO? There is one advantage to the United States of countries joining NATO, because part of that NATO agreement is that you're going to buy your weapons from us, which enables us to further become the world's largest arms dealer. Is that really the business that we want to be in? I don't mind us having a good defense, but should we be making money off selling weapons to other countries and essentially creating proxy conflicts to fuel that machine? Does that sound like the beacon on the hill? Does that sound like the country with the moral high ground?
At this point, Russia was pretty damn upset. So as everybody recalls, in 2007, President Putin said, stop. Enough. And of course, what that meant was in 2008, the United States jammed down Europe's throat enlargement of NATO to Ukraine and to Georgia.
Okay, so we're cutting off more access to the Black Sea. Notice Georgia there, guys. That's not Georgia in the United States. That's the country of Georgia in Europe. And if you remember from your history, maybe you don't, but the first country that Russia invaded was Georgia. So we expanded right up to their border and they pushed back.
This is right up against Russia. And Russia protested because if Russia decided to have a military base on the Rio Grande or the Canadian border, not only would the United States freak out, we'd have war within about 10 minutes.
Do you think that's true, guys? Do you think if China, Russia, or any other superpower or adversary, I use adversary lightly because honestly, right now, I don't think we have any true adversaries in the world. We're pretty isolated here across the ocean, but I don't know. What do you guys think? If another country is like, we're setting up a major military base, guys, right across the border in Mexico, do you think the U.S. would tolerate it? Do you think the American people would tolerate it? Look at the pushback that we got about the Panama Canal potentially being under de facto Chinese control. That got a lot of backlash, didn't it? Just think about it. Like I said, come to the Discord. Leave a comment.
And a month later, a war broke out. That gets Georgia destroyed. And starting in 2010, the U.S. put in Aegis missile systems in Poland and then in Romania.
Oh, good. Now we're putting missile systems along the edge of the NATO border with Russia. Good, good. Yeah, that can't go poorly at all, can it? That wouldn't antagonize Russia when we start installing missile systems in countries close to them. No, that would be like Russia putting missile systems in Cuba. Oh, wait. We've been through this before, guys. How mad did we get? What if they put some up there, with our northern friends in Canada, eh? What would we say if they installed ballistic missiles in Canada? Because, we pissed off Trudeau and Trudeau doesn't like us and he whines a bunch and the Russians and the Chinese are like, oh, hey, don't worry. Those Americans, they're being mean to you. They're talking about making you a territory. Come with us. We're going to build missiles in your country. And then China and Russia built missiles in Canada. Do you think we would be okay with that? Guys, antagonizing. Through USAID, I'm sure it's an assumption, but through programs like USAID, all the three-letter agencies, and our influence in NATO, we kept poking the bear. For what benefit, guys? Why? Other than to sell more weapons to NATO countries. Why? What was our interest in this?
And Russia doesn't like that. In 2010, Viktor Yanukovych was elected.
Oh, weird. 2010, elected Yanukovych. Remember that name because he was elected. He was more neutral, but he was also more pro-Russia, let's be honest. And those agencies we just discussed didn't like that.
On the platform of neutrality. Russia had no territorial interests or designs in Ukraine at all. What Russia was negotiating was a 25-year lease for Sevastopol naval base.
Because, guys, this naval base is their access to the Black Sea. It is their warm water port. They spent a lot of money building it. So they're like, hey, cool. Let's get a 25-year lease in there. We don't need to invade you. We don't need to take control of it. But if you can see there on that map, there's a little red tip sticking over. There is a bridge between Russia and Crimea. They have a naval base in Sevastopol in Crimea. Does that sound familiar, guys? Crimea. I feel like Crimea was the next place that they invaded. Oh, yeah. Probably because they had a naval base there and they wanted to maintain access to it instead of having to rebuild it. What do you guys think? Significant investment. That'd be like some country deciding to come over here to Norfolk Naval Station and being like, oh, hey, guys, by the way, that's ours. Sorry. Like, hey, not yours anymore. Oh, don't worry. We'll just rebuild it in Charleston. It'll be fine, guys. You keep it. Like, no, we wouldn't say that at all.
Naval base. That's it. Not for Crimea, not for the Donbass, nothing. In 2014, the U.S. worked actively to overthrow Yanukovych.
And we recently found out that is more likely than not funded from USAID, funding the Euromaidan protests and fomenting unrest in Ukraine to unseat Yanukovych, who was, like we said earlier, elected by the Ukrainian people. And then we go over there and we marionette people like we do, and we meddle. We just keep meddling in Europe. Why? What is our interest in this?
Everybody knows the phone call by my Columbia University colleague, Victoria Nuland, and the U.S. Ambassador Peter Piot. Listen to it. It's fascinating.
I don't think Cleach should go into the government. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's a good idea. I think Yachts is the guy who's got the economic experience, the governing experience, and, fuck the EU.
Excuse me? We obviously don't have the EU's best interests at heart, do we? Nor should we, guys. It's not our union. We're not Europe. I don't understand why we're involved. Anyone?
No, exactly. And I think we've got to do something to make.
You don't get better evidence. Then came Minsk, and especially Minsk II. It said there should be autonomy for the Russian-speaking regions in the east of Ukraine. It was supported unanimously by the UN Security Council.
Oh, weird. Another body that voted to support something that the United States was just like, no. I thought we're supposed to be all about our democracy, folks.
The United States and Ukraine decided it was not to be enforced. There were many thousands of deaths in the shelling by Ukraine in the Donbass.
And guys, if you look at this map, where is it right now that Russia has occupied? The Donbass, as well as the sliver along the ocean there that leads to Crimea and Crimea, because they want to maintain access to Sevastopol, especially because they blew up the bridge that is between Russia and Crimea. So now the only access is by land, guys. They're like, nope, never again. You blew up our bridge. We're not going to rely on that bridge anymore. We're going to have a land bridge. Thanks.
And one of the issues on the table in December 2021, January 2022, was, does the United States claim the right to put missile systems in Ukraine?
Oh, yeah. Does that seem like a good idea, guys? Should we just put missile systems everywhere? For what purpose, guys? Have you asked yourself that? What is the reason why we have been told for generations that Russia is the boogeyman? Look, I'm not saying that Putin is a great guy. He's not. He's a pretty awful person. But what does that have to do with the people of Russia? Why are they treated like they are our enemy? Why are they our enemy? I don't understand. The Soviet Union is gone. Putin is in power. Yes. Putin is a bad guy. Yes. But we've had fairly decent relations with him, and yet over the decades, we keep antagonizing him. We use the Russians as the bad guy in like every 90s action flick. And to me, the more we've learned about uncovering USAID and these three-letter agencies and the fact that Obama legalized them lying to us, it really makes me wonder how much of what we've been told over the years is just propaganda. I can't trust anyone anymore when it comes to the news because we've been getting mockingbirded for so long. Who do you trust now? I trust the people that I can actually interact with on X, not the big accounts, not the controlled accounts. I mean, the regular people on X. That's who I trust more than anything. Guys, help me here. What is our interest in Ukraine?
And Blinken told Lavrov in January 2022, the United States reserves the right to put missile systems wherever it wants.
Which is a crazy position, guys. Does it make a lot of sense that we would put missile systems and surround Russia? What are we trying to accomplish here? Why are we punishing the Russian people in this? Other than in response to NATO expansion, when has Russia, after the fall of the Soviet Union, actually just invaded somebody? They invaded Georgia when they were pushing back against NATO expansion. They invaded Crimea to push back against NATO expansion. And they've invaded Ukraine to push back about NATO expansion and meddling by the United States. Can anybody, and I encourage you to go to my comments, I encourage you to go to my Discord, I encourage you to go anywhere. Go there and present to me a case where Russia antagonized somebody else unprovoked, and we can have a discussion about it. I'm all about it. Let's do it.
So the war started. What was Putin's intention in the war? It was to force Zelensky to negotiate neutrality.
Yeah, that didn't end well yesterday, did it?
And that happened within 7 days of the start of the invasion.
Imagine that, guys. 7 days in, they were at the negotiating table. I wonder what happened. I wonder why they wouldn't have negotiated. What do you guys think? Pause the video real quick, go on over to X, make a post. Why wouldn't we want to negotiate a settlement and stop the killing?
Ukraine walked away unilaterally from a near agreement. Why? Because the United States told them to.
That sounds like a real dumb idea, especially following Biden. What What are we doing?
The idea was that there would be Ukraine, Romania, Bulgaria, Turkey, and Georgia.
That's the idea. We're just going to completely isolate Russia and get all the way up to their border. That's the idea. Does that sound like a good idea, folks? What is our advantage to having them in NATO, guys? Please tell me. I'm still waiting for a good explanation on why NATO needs to exist at all, but why we need to have more members in NATO, aside from the fact that they buy all of their weapons from us.
That would deprive Russia of any international status by blocking the Black Sea. And the American senators, who are as nasty and cynical and corrupt as imaginable.
Yeah, guys, what have we learned with Doge? What have we learned with all of these scandals coming out? Our legislature is corrupt. We do not have the moral high ground, people. What are we doing? What are our people in power? What are our senators? What are our legislators doing? Are they doing things that are in the best interest of you and me, citizens of the United States?
Say, this is wonderful expenditure of our money because no Americans are dying.
Which is disgusting, guys. They're fine as long as it's a meat grinder for somebody else, because we can make money selling weapons. That's what all that military aid is, guys. That's the $350 billion, whatever the outrageous number in aid that we've been sending. The majority of that is military aid, which just means that money is going straight to one of the big arms manufacturers and fueling the military industrial complex. That's what these senators want. And it's disgusting.
It's the pure proxy war. And since the U.S. talked the negotiators away from the table, about 1 million Ukrainians have died or been severely wounded.
Yeah, guys, it's a really good video. What do you guys think about it? It's a little bit more in depth. They have better animations and maps than my video did. But like I said, we've discussed this topic before. It's just interesting to see it playing out in real time. Because I don't see a reason why we aren't negotiating a settlement here. We are the reason that this conflict started in the first place. And by we, I mean NATO. And by NATO, I mean us. Because let's not kid ourselves, the United States and our policies still dictate and drive most of what NATO does. Do you think we should be in NATO? Do you think NATO needs to exist anymore? I fail to see what NATO exists for now. Because all it's doing is poking at Russia. Why? What is the purpose of that? The Cold War is over. The Soviet Union fell. All of these former Soviet socialist republics, they are free of Russia. So what do we gain? What movement has happened where Russia was retaking, rebuilding the Soviet Union? I would love to have that discussion with you guys. I would. But one thing I do know as an American veteran, it is not our place. It is not our war. And we need to keep ourselves out of this meat grinder. And we need to stop fueling this meat grinder. We tried to have a settlement and that didn't go very well. What do you guys think? Thank you to those of you that made it to the end of the video. I greatly appreciate your support. If you're looking for a way to support the channel, you can head on over to coffeebrandcoffee.com and use our promo code when going through checkout so that a little bit of your purchase helps the channel and helps me bring you more content. If you're looking for a free way to support the channel, you can like the video, share the video with friends and family, leave a comment on the video, and subscribe to the channel. All of these help out with the algorithm, and when you help out with the algorithm, it also helps me to bring you more content in the future. You can go on over to the Discord through the link below and join the conversations going on there. You can also go over to X and follow us at PatriotDad_USA. I have a show every week, Saturday night, where I broadcast a news update for the week, as well as a space on X with the Questionable Gardener and myself and others every week, Tuesday night at 9 p.m. So catch me on that weekly news update, 8:30 p.m. on Saturdays, or in the space on X, Tuesdays at 9 p.m., and I look forward to interacting with you there. If you have a recommendation for a video or a topic you want to see discussed on the channel or reacted to, please send it to the email address below or leave it in a comment, and I will get to it as soon as I can. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Take care of yourselves, and God bless. Go ahead and check out one of the links on the screen now to either subscribe to the channel and see the rest of the videos of the channel, or one of the carefully selected videos that you may wish to see that YouTube has used its algorithm to select for you.